Hey guys, it's Mike. Welcome back to the show. Today I have Vita Chiarenza on the show. She is a resident here in Massachusetts. And as I was talking to her just a few minutes ago, the show is starting to morph into the voices of people here in Massachusetts. And that's what we're going to hear today. So she has a good story for you. And I think that you're going to find it very interesting. So I'm happy to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I was explaining I grew up in Massachusetts, spent my life and my career here. As most adults, I aspire to the American dream, owning your own home and, working 2-3 jobs. I single, wanted to do it on my own, didn't want to rely on anyone. So finally, by the time the pandemic rolled around, I was in a good financial place, had my home for 21 years. Also lost my dad during that time. And so it was a bit of a sad time. And so I realized, we need to go after what we want and make our dreams come true, and I was in that position to do so. So I always wanted to live in Newburyport. Loved it there, still love it there. And so, although I'm not living there anymore, but so I bought a home in Newburyport. And so at the time I had bought it from a contractor who had a small LLC, didn't know about his other company at the time, but he had opened a small LLC. He renovated a home that he bought. The remodel job was beautiful, but unfortunately he just remodeled right over a fire that was giving off toxins that was never fixed, or even reported to the city, as well as the highest levels of toxic mold and water damage. And he had lied in disclosures about that. So immediately when I moved in, I began to become sick. And so that's when I started to have experts come in of all levels. And one of the experts I had come in is very prominent in Massachusetts and has testified in courts, as well as not just in the area of mold, but also all of the other damage that I had to my house. So it was determined that it was not safe for me to continue to live there. I, had developed a lot of serious symptoms, continued to, and actually more recently in the last couple of years developed some serious illnesses from that.
So you had testing done?
I had, a lot of different experts come in. And so inspections, all different types of professionals that came in to verify.
And they did air quality tests and the whole 9 yards, probably mold samples, sent them to the lab, all that?
Everything. Have tons of reports, pictures of it all. And so I even had Newburyport building commissioner come in as well, and his whole team there as well. And they also were quite horrified at what was in my home at the time and said, we could fine you, but instead they encouraged me to pursue action against this contractor, and said that they would write a letter, which they did at the time, and I can tell you later what's happened since with them. And so vacated, but in the process, my realtor at the time that sold me the house, he also has written an affidavit as well, because the disclosures came to both he and I, as well as my closing attorney reached out to his closing attorney and him, and they essentially only wanted to send in a cleaning company, and just to make a point of this too, because a remediation job, the only estimate I could get at that time was just for the basement and the garage, for the mold only, not even everything else, because they had to be able to get in and see open areas.
Right, because the fire damage, everything was basically covered over, right? They put sheetrock over everything. It was like putting a Band-Aid on sins.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, upstairs, unless I opened every crevice, there was never any assurances that they would find that it would not have mold. And again, it didn't include any kind of opening it all up, remediating the top 2 floors, and then reconstructing everything. And it was a 2,500 square foot home. There was no way that I would be able to do that. Now I was displaced, paying, living expenses at other places, and also carrying a mortgage on a home that I could not live in.
What did you buy, if you don't mind saying, what did you what did you purchase the house for?
So at the time I bought it for $850,000.
Okay.
Yes. And then later, after my first attorney could no longer represent me, and I had been trying to sell the home, and contractors were backing out of the deals, because even though I disclosed, once they had other people coming in, it was that bad that even for like huge money below what the house would have been worth, they still were getting out of the deals. And that first attorney would not hang around to see that through. So I ended up having to sell the house after he was, he stopped representing me. Had to sell that for almost what would have been the worth at that time, $300,000 less. So I sold it for $675,000, but the people, and I'll talk to that in a minute, but bought it for the $675,000. I had bought it for $850,000 over a year before, year and a half or whatever it was, and then they sold it months later for $950,000.
Right. So how did it get past any kind of local inspections for code, and like the town goes in, right? Or they'll have like they'll have a company come in and write off the inspections if permits were pulled.
Right.
So, I mean, how did it get to the point where it was available for sale? How did they pass everything?
I agree. And I had those questions too, but I didn't get any clear answers about that. Not only that, but he was supposed to have insurance, and he even lied.
Right?
The builder. And when I actually ended up having to file the lawsuit, and I can explain that in a minute too, because he should have bought that house from me immediately back per the PNS, just for other things like code violations that we found out there were permit violations he didn't get or didn't close out, and code violations beyond even the fire, the water and all of that, and the mold damage.
So the permits were still open; they were never closed.
Somewhere,
right?
And the people who bought it ended up being a family member of the Newburyport Building Commissioner's office later for much less. And now it seems from what I've seen in some of the court documents, they're minimizing the damage now after they had written a letter and spoke to a lot more serious
It sounds like an inside job almost, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Exactly. And so when I bought the house, then when I sold the house, I then got another attorney, which has been a nightmare since, and actually have been re-victimized twice now by this new attorney.
Yeah.
He basically scammed me out of my money and set me up to fail on my case. He was completely negligent, didn't do the work he was supposed to on my case. In fact, actually did some harmful things to my case, information-wise, that wouldn't have supported my case versus submitting the information that would have, and didn't do any discovery. Tried to find another lawyer. No lawyers would take my case because it was too soon before trial, and that he had neglected, and like the level of misconduct on my case was so great that they don't want to take the liability. He managed still 2 months before trial, after not responding to me for months and months, not completing depositions that were extended times by the court, and other things, he managed to recuse himself. Not only did he recuse himself, but for 2 years, he refused to provide any invoices, which he's required to by law, against a $25,000 retainer. He then manufactured, fraudulently billed me for $50,000 worth of billing, telling me that now, after he recused himself, that he'll give me back $20,000 of my $25,000 retainer, negate this supposed extra $25,000 in billing if I sign a release of liability of malpractice, because he obviously...
Did you do that?
No, I did not. So I have no money now.
Gotcha.
He did not release back to me, scammed me out of my money.
Yeah. And you didn't sign anything yet?
No, I refused to.
Okay.
I've gone without that. Another important piece is that typically, from what I understand, judges don't allow attorneys to recuse themselves for a couple months before trial, and the court that my case was out of, and that he went in to recuse himself, he has judges as relative. Oh, they have judges as relatives.
Of course.
There. So I'm concerned about some issues there as well.
Did you have any communication after you bought the house and this happened within a few months of owning the house and living in the house where you
Right.
started to get sick, right?
Right.
Did you have any communication at all between you and the builder?
Oh, so yes. So I was starting to talk about that,
Yeah.
and then I kind
That's
of went
okay.
on a different direction. So, yes, I talked to so my attorney,
Talk to their attorney?
my closing attorney,
Yes.
and the realtor reached out. They only offered a regular cleaning company. Then they called me a liar, which prompted me to have to go in to file the lawsuit, and then. They minimally they speak to an offer that they had made to me, but it was under the value of what the house should have been. So not taking
So
into
they made you an offer to buy the house back?
almost much later down the road. And
okay.
they should have. It became a 93A fraud case. So he should and the contract violations case. He should have bought that back for me immediately.
Right,
and he
because it
didn't.
was within the purchase and sale. If there was any defects within
Right.
the permitting or within, the code violations, that would provide an opportunity for you to go back and say, look, there's something wrong with this house. You have to buy this house back for me.
Right.
And they did make you an offer on the house, correct?
And it was much less than
And it was much less than what you paid?
and it didn't take into account I lost all of my lifelong belongings, personal property, which I'm not anywhere near replacing what I did have.
So the items, you mean your personal property that's in the house, you basically left it there or got rid of it?
So the only things that were treatable is all I could take, and even then, a lot of the chemicals damaged a lot of my whatever. You can't take anything that's absorbent. So, for example, I had leather couches, a
Yes.
big leather couch set. That's something you can't take. You can't
Right.
take anything that's porous, even wood furniture. If it has underside, which I
Yes.
have pictures of that too, mold was already growing on that. If it has an unfinished side, you can't take that. So essentially, most of my belongings, except for clothes, but even then, you have to treat it with chemicals and launder it and dry it.
Yeah.
And so things that were dry cleanables, lifelong things that you've had, coats and all of that.
So you lost everything,
I lost
basically.
everything. And so not only was he not, I couldn't even buy a house because remember, I have been paying the mortgage, which was
Right.
a reasonably sized mortgage by that point, legal fees, expert fees, double living costs, and all my property. And then I also had very serious health issues, which online are not completely disclosed yet, but at that time I was seeing blurry. It's now developed into a secondary condition called Fuchs disease. Immediately when I went in, I had growths in my eyes. And so I was treated with steroids, had to move forward with that, and that eventually got better. I couldn't see it all initially. It got better, but it never went back to normal, and it developed into a secondary condition. And I have other very serious.
What prompted you? What prompted you to? So you buy the house, you move into the house, and within how long? About a month and a half?
No, I was within days. I started getting sick.
Within days, and then that prompted you to do a little bit of investigating.
Yes, right away. I started calling people in because. So the other thing is, he had a big machine that was in the property every time that I was going there, and so it kind of masked it. The last day that I was there, I smelled a little something.
What kind of machine? Like an air scrubber, something like that?
So I thought it was. He made it sound like it was a big air conditioning because the house didn't have air conditioning. It was something I was thinking of doing myself. So it was a big thing. He made it sound like it was summertime. It was towards the end of the summer, when I was viewing the house. By the time the house went through, it was in September. But so it was really hot. So I thought it was just reasonable. They're working. It's this big.
Yeah.
Maybe it was taking the air out too to keep it because they're doing construction, so no one's getting sick too. But it was a pretty sizable machine.
Do you have any pictures of the machine by chance?
I don't think there's any because I wouldn't have. I'd have to look back. That's a good question.
Yeah, because if it was any kind of so what they do, a lot of these remediation companies is after they clean up X, Y, and Z problem, whether it be mold or whatever it is, they'll put an air scrubber in, right? And what the air scrubber does, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but I've had this done on properties before. They'll put an air scrubber in to kind of get any kind of like materials or mold or anything out of the air. Basically, it's like a filtration system. I'd be interested to know. That would be very interesting to know, because that would be telling if they were already using something at the time that you were viewing the house. If it wasn't an air conditioner per se, right?
Yep.
It would be interesting to find that out, because that would just add more fuel to the fire, because effectively they knew there was a problem that they were trying to fix.
I don't know that they were trying to fix, maybe mask.
Not fix, right? Yeah.
Mask the smell.
Yeah.
And mask like the air quality.
Yeah.
Because I almost think.
Was there an
now
odor
I
in the
just read-
house?
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that I didn't smell anything. The last day in the basement there was something, but because it was the day before the walkthrough or whatever, and he's made it sound like, because it was a very rainy season, and he made it sound like, like all the basements are a little, my last house was brand new construction, and I never had any problems. So like I thought, okay, well, sometimes people's basements smell a little different, right? So I didn't really like a little musty or something. So, but he had denied any water damage and mold damage, which every expert that came in, and I'll speak to that in a moment, also his other company, says there was no way he did not know. In addition to that, his closing attorney didn't have in whatever paperwork was required, either the PNS or, when you're passing papers, there was no fire. You know how they have the fire?
Yeah.
That was pulled. So to me, that right there, why didn't they include that? They knew, because it was fire damage that was never reported and never disclosed to me.
Yes.
So that to me is telling too. But every expert that walked through said that he absolutely knew about it. And I was denied. I tried to file an insurance claim myself when I first moved in.
Yeah.
And they said that it was pre-existing. So everything, it was long-standing damage that was there.
I gotcha.
And then the house was in horrific shape. I understand from other people later.
When you called the insurance, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you called your insurance company, so sometimes what happens is, was it hard let me back up. Was it hard for you to get the house insured to begin with?
No.
It wasn't hard?
No.
Sometimes if not him, but the previous owner, sometimes what happens is if they ever made a claim about, something, whether it be especially water or fire or whatever, that would be in like the chain of insurance claims. And sometimes people would have an issue, but that only holds true if whoever he bought the property from filed a claim for X, Y, and Z.
So I can tell you I have information about the previous owner and why.
Did you call them by any chance?
No. But there's reasons why they may have not reported the fire. There may have been some activity at that residence, is what I've been told by both the city and by other neighbors and other people aware of the home, of why the fire was put out by themselves and not reported. And I'm guessing that given the condition of the home, they didn't try to file any kind of claims.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
yeah.
And then how did the water get it? What's the speculation on the water?
So they definitely found all the experts that came in. Again, I had different tiers of all different experts come in, that there was water damage, which he denied.
Was it on the first or second floor, or both?
So there were also leaks found during my investigation. So there was leaks as far up as the third floor, but water like flooding did happen, they're saying. But in addition to that,
in the basement, you mean?
In the basement, they found that. Again, a lot of the upstairs was covered. They were able to see some of the fire damage on the second floor through maybe like a closet, like an unfinished little area in the closet. But also like putting out the fire, right? So whatever they did to put out that fire, however, because it happened like in a certain section of the house. That's where he did, he took down a couple walls or whatever, but the flooring was still charred. Like there was still areas that were really bad. And that's the important thing about my case that I think a lot of people are not really listening to. And I think when I talk about my case, especially to new lawyers now, which again, nobody is willing to take my case, and its trial's 2 months away now because of what this last attorney did, despite the fact that the judge did order an $850,000 lien on the contractor's house, which shows because he was lying in the beginning about having the
Is that
insurance.
lien still on his house?
It's still on it.
Okay.
But attorneys don't want to get into this mess now because of now it seems like my case is going to lose because that last attorney not only did he not do his work, he set me up to fail. He harmed my case.
Right, and just to reiterate for the audience, the contractor that did the work on the house never had insurance, because sometimes what you could do is, instead of going after the person or the LLC or whatever they created, you could sometimes pivot and then go after their insurance, but they never even had insurance.
No, and that's what I understand, and that's where I'm upset because I have not gotten any, help from the state. There are a couple different areas by which this has risen to criminal level. I understand that might be insurance fraud, where he was required and lied about it in court. He perjured himself in court too, to the judge. That's what led to the lien. So
is that like a mechanic's lien or something like that? Is that basically what it was?
It's a house lien on for the judgment. If
I gotcha.
Obviously, if I win, which is also not appealing to a lot of lawyers either, because that takes time. That's not easy to just like insurance get reimbursed, or if there are any reimbursements at the end, or you win your suit, you can't easily get that back.
It's not now money, it's future money.
And it can be difficult to obtain that too.
Right.
So that's a whole, but the most disheartening piece of this is that this contractor did not have insurance. However, he owns a very big company, and this is where I'm concerned about why I'm not getting help. Big companies, big contracts with the state. And so in that company also, he has insurance for that though, and he closed a small LLC immediately. A small one, he closed that out after I filed suit. Then the bigger one, sounds like there may have been shuffling with family members or who's president now, but he's still with that. I think he was in charge at that time. And so, but that company is still thriving. He's still doing business well. I've been cheated out of everything and have nothing left. He's making millions out there on state contracts, and there's no accountability for what he's done. In terms of everything, he broke contracts. He did serious violations. He covered up. I understand that one of the things, there's a larceny charge. I was given the name of that. I've tried to get help by the AGO's office. I've been denied. They don't respond. I've reached out multiple times to the AGO.
To Andrea Campbell?
Yes, and I asked for a meeting with her, nothing.
Of course.
I was told that she's too busy.
Yeah, of course.
So, and I got no explanation as to why my case was denied, yet other agencies are telling me the AGO should be helping you. They referred me to the DA's office, who then said there were a couple things that I could file, but at this point without, by myself.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm running circles and no one has helped me. So without an attorney or without governmental support now, I feel like I'm just going to keep getting, roadblocked along
You know
the
what the
way.
crazy thing is about this story is I was an electrician for 10 years prior to selling real estate. So what happens is a lot of times these contractors, when they purchase these houses, first of all, if the house didn't have homeowner's insurance on it when they bought it, right, it could effectively be somewhat condemned. Now, I don't know if it was condemned. I would have to check records for that. But what happens is whenever they start to pull permits and whenever they start to do work, whether it be plumbing, electrical, framing, finish, whatever it is, they go through phases of inspections. You know what I'm saying? So it's surprising to me that they were able to purchase said property and make it to the point that they made it to with not actually clearing out or clearing up the damage that was already done, whether it be fire and or mold. It doesn't make any, that there's something is fishy about that.
And there's visible, if you see the pictures, I had never seen them obviously because I saw only the pictures that
Who took the photos?
So I saw online.
Oh,
Someone was able to pull up the previous photos.
Yes.
There are visible stains, which look like mold stains, even on the ceiling. It was so decrepit.
Which ceiling? The first floor or the second?
The first floor. The first floor. I don't know that. The house was it should have been torn down.
Was there a roof on the house when could you see?
And that was another thing that was not in code. Everything that was not.
But was there a roof on the house?
There was a roof. I forget what the violations were, and that again I have multiple.
One thing that I could even do is sometimes if you use Google Maps and you get a satellite image of the roof, sometimes it's from years prior, and you could see it. Like, obviously you're looking from a satellite image, but sometimes you could see if the roof was in complete disrepair, if there were any issues with the roof, or if there was even a roof on the house. As for getting water on the first floor and on the ceiling of the first floor, common factors of that. Sometimes it's a bathroom, unless it's coming down from somewhere, or if it's close to a wall, right? That means it could be coming through the sill of a window, or because of the flashing is bad. There's multiple reasons for it. And
there was water found coming from both the third floor and the second floor, and like through the wall or through pipes or something. I have it in my reports. But even one of multiple experts come in, took a picture of those water coming, like I had just taken a shower before he came to meet with me, and there was water that was filtering through, like coming down from the third
After
floor.
You bought that? You mean?
After I bought. Oh, there were a lot of violations. Right, exactly. The house would have been needed to be torn down. So $20,000 of
that's like a drop in the bucket.
That was just like to remediate the basement and the garage. Yes. That was not, and there was no, unless, that's what I was told, unless you open every crevice and completely rebuild this house for everything he did. And he's arguing that, that I didn't do my due diligence to fix this house. Did you do a home
inspection when you bought it?
So I didn't, and that's part of the fraud case, because during that time, this is why I bought this particular property, is he also, fraudulently advertised this house as brand new condition, everything brand new, because they weren't at that time during the pandemic. I don't know if you remember, you couldn't get an inspection.
Yeah, I know. I realize
and that's exactly why I bought that property, because I knew that you couldn't get anything else, and I was concerned about getting anything that needed work, because you don't necessarily know the extent. So and so some of the things were very visible, like the electrical box or whatever, seemed like he had done a nice job, and everything else seemed like it was good. Sure. And I relied on that was the most important piece, is that had he disclosed the history of the home and the condition of the home and the presence of things, I would not have bought that house.
Was there a property disclosure at all?
I don't recall, but he did deny it. I have the affidavit of my realtor. I don't. It's been so long.
Yeah, that's okay.
So that piece I don't know. But another important thing is that at that point it's 15 years or so ago approximately. But the reason why I was so diligent to try to find out is that many years ago, and again I was very, very lucky, but I had a very early case of breast cancer that was a very aggressive type, and I, again, very lucky. I don't even feel comfortable saying that it was cancer, because it was was about to turn or hadn't even turned or whatever. They removed it, got all the lines. They recommended some things like tamoxifen, and I decided I was going to forego that. That's why I was so diligent, because I take good care to make sure that I don't expose myself.
Sure.
And now it's 15 years later, but I would not have bought that house. I relied on him, and I shared that with my realtor. In his presence, why I was asking, and he lied. Him and his wife. His wife was the initial person. They had something listed that they
was she the realtor?
So that's the thing. They had some weird, it looked like they had a realtor, but they were the ones that were handling it. So I don't know if it was just they advertised it under a different name, but then
it could have been a for sale by owner almost, that they paid a flat.
Yeah.
They may have paid a flat fee broker to just put it on the MLS.
Right. And the wife even lied, and his attorney recently said to me, "You expect her to know?" Yes, I do. If she's representing the company, and in fact, I think she should have been part of this lawsuit, as well, because she did, for whatever reason, the previous attorneys didn't want to put her on, or add his other company. That I did find some billing that was sent to my address that they were billing for electrical or something like that. I don't remember what it was now, but no one wanted to list her, and so she's also on that house. And my last attorney, I expressed concern, since it
if she wasn't part of the LLC, which I'm not an attorney, right? But if she didn't have anything to do with the LLC, then she has nothing to do with it effectively, right?
Right.
But if it was him and whoever else was part of the LLC, that's who effectively would also be liable. But it seems like she was maybe helping facilitate a couple things.
She said she was part of the company, that she handled one aspect. So she was the only one that presented the house the first time I was there. And then it was both of them, I think, from that point forward. Or maybe it was the last time she was definitely there. I don't remember about the second, but she answered questions about the home the first time I was there.
I think the most telling thing, well, there's a couple telling things here, but the offer to buy the house back for hundreds of thousands of dollars less just shows you that they sold you, they sold you a package that was no good, right? And to begin with.
Right.
At least that's the way, based on your story, that it looks to me.
Right.
And, it's really wild circumstances. And what happens here is like, there's multiple people that are within this chain of command between the builder or, the town, if they did any levels of inspections with the permits and signed off on the permits. There's many, many things, it sounds like, that happened here. And it all went back to somebody that's family with the town, right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
Right, exactly.
And they sold it.
And then they made a lot of money.
And they made a big profit on the property.
Right, exactly. And in the meantime, I couldn't sell it for I think the last time that I had an offer that I want to say it was low 700s that they even backed out. But the house, in fact, I heard it should have even been over $1 million at that point, and it's definitely over $1 million now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And there's so not only did I lose my lifelong savings, which at that point, I should have, when I left the house, the equity in it should have been $500,000 at that point. Worked all my life for that. I lost my regular savings. I've lost all my lifelong belongings and memories in that house. And now, I don't even have my health. And I have $80,000 so far, or over $80,000 of legal fees for a case now that I may not even win because the last attorney harmed my case so badly.
How did you get in contact with the last attorney?
So a woman that in my neighborhood, her relative used to lived in our street. She was an attorney. There's some concerns I have about her as well. So she is not part of that law firm, but shares space with them and referred me to them. But I've even been cited for conversations with my attorneys, when they escalated my bill exceedingly. Again, clearly fraudulent. For example, I got charged 4 hours for reviewing one email, $800 by a paralegal. Just to give you an example of the extent of fraudulent billing that was occurred. But she cited in their conversations with her when they, at that point, I had not given any permission for them to talk to her. So, but she wasn't part of my case.
Gotcha.
She just referred them to me.
I gotcha. Now, in terms of the testing that you had, was there any doctors or anybody that you spoke to that was able to draw a correlation between the house and your health? So,
unfortunately, the last attorney was not willing to help me find. I guess attorneys told me there could be doctors that specialize in this and can tie in the multitude of illnesses that I have right now. Some are permanent. For example, I cannot no longer digest food. I have to take medicine to be able to digest food. It's called EPI, and a couple other serious things as well that could be tied into that. And so he wouldn't help me find an expert, but there were some of my doctors, at least 2 or 3 were able to tie in what happened to me and the exposures to where my illnesses and my status now. They didn't provide that. They provided the ones that weren't able to individually say that those individual illnesses could be. So for whatever reason, they decided to actually put in. It's almost like it was they were representing the defendant and not me.
Yeah, I mean and the reality is not to discredit your health, of course, but that's a whole other layer to this.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Exactly. You have the house, which is I would say the most tangible primary, problem causer here, and then you have your health as a side effect of the problem, right? Yeah, I think. And have you contacted other attorneys to try to?
I've been doing that for the last, probably since, like, I want to say it started to become evident to me towards the end of last year when the attorney, when I found out that he didn't respond. They were trying to dismiss the lien, and I didn't even know that there was a hearing or that there had been attempts to do that, and he didn't even write a response to that, so they were moving to dismiss it, and I found out by myself, so we ended up going back into court. So that alarmed me, as well as they were not prepared, that even though they lost my medical records like 3 times, they did not have the documentation request for my deposition, and so we couldn't finish it, and they never rescheduled it, and they never deposed the other party. So once I started to really get wind of what was happening, I started calling all attorneys. No one will, if I get a call back, if they hear my situation, that's when I'm hearing it's a liability. There's too much like possibility, like little time for trial, but also the damage and misconduct of that last attorney makes it liable for them. And then I don't have money now.
Yeah.
So it's like, where's justice for me? And then again, I don't get any help with the government. I understand the AGO could have taken this on before, and I've only been rejected, and I get no response from them.
So the Attorney General, she hasn't even responded to you.
I did file for both the attorney and the contractor. I got denied on both with no explanation. And then when I kept getting referred back by other agencies, including, the DA's office and local police, they said they really should be taking this on. I've asked for a meeting. I have emails to the AGO. I just was told she's too busy. And I said, well, when I'm happy to, meet with her when she has available time, get no response. And then any other agency that I reached out to, politicians, like I never heard back from recently. Bill Galvin's office referred me back, said, yes, the governor's office can be helping you, work this out with the AGO, or told me to try the senators again. I just recently heard back from one of the senators' office, but it sounded like to me the same as it's always been. Well, we'll see what we can do. It didn't sound.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
Do you disclose who the person was when you're making these phone calls, or their companies, or anything of that nature?
I have.
Do you think
I haven't done publicly until today. Today's my first time publicly doing that. Yeah,
but I mean, if you call the Attorney General's office, and when you originally, told her what happened, there was obviously no communication between you and her directly. What I'm asking is, did you bring up who the contractor was?
Yes, because you have to file a complaint, and I filed complaints.
I'm wondering if, since perhaps his other company is doing state-related work,
right,
that they're more unlikely to want to help.
Right, exactly.
And I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just speculating, right? Because it seems like this is a clear case. I mean, you lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You lost multiple things. You lost money. You lost your tangible items. You lost time.
Yeah.
And you're also losing your health.
Right.
And nobody wants to pick this up.
Right.
So I would say, for just really quickly, if anybody's watching that is an attorney or knows an attorney, hopefully somebody could try to help you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a ridiculous story. But the fact is that there's many stories like this. You know what I mean? So the only kind of relief that I could bring to you is that it's unfortunate, of course, and this is no excuse for the situation that you're in or you continue to be in, but there's a lot of people in the same position in other ways, manner, or form, right? And it's unfortunate because you have all of these problems, and nobody is stepping up to help, and not only from, like, let's say, local attorneys, but I mean even the state government doesn't want to step in and help. So you could have the same guy, same company, they could open multiple LLCs and do the same exact thing to these properties and get away with it,
right?
Which is just. Did you file anything with, like, the Better Business Bureau or anything in regarding?
I've contacted every agency. If you saw the trail of information that I have. Like, I was always redirected somewhere else anytime I called an agency. If I filed, I was denied. So I've tried every avenue that you could possibly imagine, and there needs to be accountability. Like, this shouldn't be like people, like, we're in this state, taxpayers' money, we're supposed to have consumer protection. How is it that this person is still out there with this license after what he's done to me?
Right.
You know, and I haven't even disclosed the extent of harm that I have right now.
Right.
And you're right, the tangible stuff is like really what everybody can see too. Like, obviously the loss of like everything that we talked about, but he should not be able to get away with this. Why is it that other professions in this state, that if you violate anything, your license is removed right away? People don't have to sue you civilly to do that. Or like if you do misconduct that rises to a criminal level, there are criminal issues here, and nobody wants to help me with that. And so there's, that's not, I need to be made whole. And that's like, I'm not going to give up until there's some kind of accountability for what he's done, however that happens. But people can't get away with this. It's not fair that certain people, money and power, even attorneys, that an attorney can, like, he basically has coerced me into like getting any money back from him. I have to sign a release of malpractice liability. Like, that's fraud. He fraudulently billed me excessive amounts to scare me into signing this to get my money back, which should have been owed to me anyway, and so why is this allowed? Because he's an attorney? Because he has, because they have relatives that are judges in courts? Like, something needs to change in the state. And I'm beginning to feel like it's more and more happening than not. And you're right. I think there are a lot of people out there like me. And I'll just say this. I'm an advocate for others. I don't know how people who don't have the skills that I have, that's what my profession is advocating for others. And I know how to do that, and I'm tired, but I'm not giving up. Yeah. So, but can you imagine people that don't have
they don't have the resources, right? They don't have the resources, or they don't have the knowledge, or they don't have the experience. There's multiple layers to this. But honestly, as I'm sitting here, what's also scary, I should say, is that not only could this guy continue to do what he's doing, let's say on the residential side, but think about the quality of work that's happening on a state level, right? Like, if this happened on a residential home, like, usually these things are like dominoes, right? If there's sins created in one area, there's a high probability there's going to be the same sins created in another. And on top of that, what it also does is, without any levels of accountability here, but it provides an opportunity for the bad actors to not only commit the same, in negligence, I guess you could say, on future projects, but it could also affect other people down the chain, right? So it's not only you. I mean, we're talking about you here, but the reality here is that this could be happening to multiple people throughout the unforeseeable future, which is also a huge problem. And for the state not to step in and even answer your calls or write an email or do something, or at least talk about it. I mean, even if it was a paralegal or whomever from the AG's office, it's shocking to me. We pay all this money to live here. Cost of living is astronomical. Right. And like, when push comes to shove and somebody needs help, like, we're like second-rate citizens. That's how it feels.
And I will say, too, the other thing that I found was, at the time, I had some resources, so I was able to begin to fight my case, right? What about those people that can't, that don't have? So you have no justice. And that's where I think people also get away with it. And that's where I feel like the abuse of money and power in this state, that there's no justice for people that, if you don't have the funds, I'm exhausted in every way right now, and I'm not giving up. But there's a lot of people, again, that maybe don't have the skills or resources or the money, to do that, or the time to do that, So that's a big part of it as well, is that it can happen and will happen again, because they can get away with it.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because again, it can only affect people down the chain, and then it's like, some people don't have the money, or they don't have the time or the expertise or the knowledge or whatever it is. And, they're completely disenfranchised.
Right,
You know
right.
what I mean? They're completely disenfranchised. So is there anything else that you think we should add?
And well, I also wonder about like what about those people that maybe it did happen to and they didn't have the funds.
Correct.
Like because the attorney fees, I mean, I just had one attorney say to me, because of the liability of your case, I'd have you sign a waiver knowing that you probably won't win it, and I need $125,000 retainer.
Yeah.
Who can afford that? Are we in a state now?
Why do they keep on claiming the liability? Their personal liability to take on this case because of another.
Because this last attorney he neglected and didn't do.
So they would be wrapped into this case in some way, manner, or form.
They take it over, and they have a certain amount of time. And if something gets missed, and it's very little time now, it's my trial's 2 months away. Not one single attorney will take my case. So what do I do now? I don't know if there's someone out there that has an answer for me. I'm determined to proceed, however that happens, but he can't get away with what he's done to me. And so, but how do I do that without funds and little time, So imagine people who can't even start it. I mean, I've already invested $80,000 in this situation.
Yeah. So not only you lost all the stuff on your house, but you've also lost $80,000 trying to fight for your health, fight for your finances, fight for your tangible items, your personal items. It's wild.
Right. And attorneys have also said to me, even if they could take it on, because the short time frame, they're like, your case would be the only one that I would need to work on, because essentially they have to restart everything and try to fix whatever damage, if it's possible, from the start. So it's not like I don't have a case. There was a lien on the house, obviously. I mean, again, the contractor lied in court to the judge about having insurance. That's perjury. Why isn't he paying the price for that? Isn't that criminal? Or isn't there something related to his license or his freedom that's related to that? I mean, so yeah,
well, maybe we could figure something out for you. You know what I mean? Maybe we could figure something out and see what could be done, because again, it's not only stopping the infection, right? But it's or I should say making you whole, but it is also about stopping that infection. Right. Like that's what it is, from happening to other people.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that there've been people that, like you said, that are suffering through this and this has happened to them, but they haven't even been able to proceed, or have, I had the understanding of what I needed to do to find it out. Maybe some people would not have even known the extent of the laws or anything else. I did a lot of research on my own and talked extensively with the experts, so I knew enough about what was wrong and my rights. But maybe people don't, there's probably a lot of people that couldn't fight their situation. So I'm sure there's a lot of other people, and I'm sure that he's also being watchful right now.
Sure.
But you're right. He's going to do this down the road if he knows he can get away with it.
Well, that's what happens. And that's what I talk about a lot on the channel itself, is even on a state level, it doesn't matter if it's a state or personal level or business or whatever. If you give somebody an inch, they take many, many, many miles.
Right.
And there's a high probability that the same bad acts by the same bad actors are going to be committed down the line somewhere.
Right.
And it is what it is.
Right.
But yeah, maybe we'll have somebody, we'll get some contacts here, and we'll see if we could do something.
Thank you, Mike.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I want to say how much I appreciate you. Were my glimmer of hope.
Listen, I hope I could do something. I really do.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.